afternoon. My name is Andrew Finstuen. I'm the Dean of the Honors College, and I'm the inaugural director of the Institute for Advancing American Values, and I've been working on Idaho Listens. And my job right now is to bring up President Marlene Tromp to offer words of welcome. So, President Tromp.
I just want to take a brief moment because Andrew has been so self-effacing in this process, but he's been such an incredible leader in the Institute for Advancing American Values. And in sustaining this program over the course of COVID, when we were trying to figure out how to make this program a reality. So I wish you would please just give him another round of applause. It is my great honor to welcome you to Boise State University and to Idaho Listens. Idaho Listens is a program supported by philanthropist Greg Carr and delivered through our new Institute for Advancing American Values. This program invites all of us to listen and learn from a variety of perspectives, a variety of ways of seeing the world, of thinking, of learning, and we are so pleased to have 11 speakers from different walks of life who have the courage, especially in this climate, to share what they value and why. That was their assignment, and we will hear from them in just a moment. They will be featured in a documentary produced by Idaho Public Television. They have been our partner in this effort, and we thank them for that work. Many people worked in conjunction with our speakers to make this event happen, but I'd like to highlight Cherie Buckner-Webb for being a champion of this program from the outset. I'd also like to thank you. I'd also like to thank Idaho Public Television for their work to produce a documentary about this extraordinary program. Yes, thank you. This program is truly a dream come true for me. Many people have talked, not just locally, but nationally, about the duress that we have been under in this political moment. But I truly believe there is another way. There are ways for us to see one another as human beings, to see one another as having value and having values. I believe we can offer another path. I believe universities can be a keystone in demonstrating that it is possible to have deep and powerful conviction and still to be in dialogue with people who think and believe differently than you do. And I am so deeply grateful to thank Greg Carr. Greg values listening. He believed in what I described, and together we envisioned what you will see today. And with Andrew's leadership, we've been able to make it a reality. We began to have serious conversations about the critical need for listening, especially in our current environment. A few years ago, he was such a fundamental part of developing this project, and he has generously supported it. It is my privilege to introduce to you via video Greg Carr so you can hear him speak about his desire for us to listen.
Hi, everybody. I'm enthused for the launch of Idaho Listens. And thank you, Boise State University. Today I'm going to talk about my hero, my mentor, my role model, my mom. Betty Olson Carr. My mother turned 100 on August 2nd, 2022. Her family, her parents came to Idaho in 1910. Got a little farm near Kimberly. She grew up there. So we're going on 110 years now. Our family loving this state. We like Idaho, we like the people. Now I think my mother embodies the spirit of Idaho Listens. She has what we would all call traditional values: hard work, integrity, help a neighbor, sacrifice for a bigger cause. But on top of that, my mother has curiosity. She loves to learn. She's always reading. She likes to meet new people. She likes conversation. We had all kinds of different folks in our neighborhood, up and down South Holmes Road in Idaho Falls. Different people. My mom liked all of them. She was friends with all of them. My mother didn't believe that you had to agree with someone on every single political point or philosophical idea or lifestyle in order to be their friend, in order to like them. In fact, she took it a step further. If she was in a room of people and somebody said something that wasn't entirely positive about somebody else, she would always say, well, but you know, so-and-so has this good quality. Now, isn't that really the highest aspiration for being a human being, that we can find kindness and compassion for everyone? Now, our neighborhood was vibrant because we had all these different ideas. And why is that a good thing? Why would it be a good thing for Idaho to have an entire mix of people with different views and notions? Well, it means we have that many more solutions available to us as we face a challenge. The United States of America has been the most innovative nation on earth, decade after decade after decade. And why is that? Because we are a collection of people from the entire world that gathered in our country, all of them bringing their different ideas, their different skills, their different solutions to problems, their languages. It's a mashup of creativity that leads to invention, that leads to resilience. There's an example that I enjoy thinking about on the benefits of diversity. And it's the English language itself. People say that English has more than 1 million words in it. Probably more than any other language on earth. How did that happen? Well, the people who spoke English were exploring the whole world. They were curious. They were learning. They were gathering ideas. They were incorporating words, new ways to think about things. I'll use an example. My mom, Betty, is pretty. Now, how many different words can I find in the English language to express the concept of pretty? Well, there'd be hundreds. Now, pretty itself is actually a word that came from Dutch into Middle English many centuries ago. But how else can we describe Betty? She's gorgeous, she's lovely, she's pleasing, she's alluring, she's charming, she's dazzling, she's elegant, she's exquisite, stunning, for sure. She's splendid, she's resplendent, she's angelic, for sure. She's radiant. My mom is pulchritudinous. Okay, I don't really use the word pulchritudinous in my everyday life, but it's from Latin, and it actually means the most beautiful. All right. So what does this mean that we have such a huge vocabulary in English? It means that when we want to express an idea, we can do so with more precision, with more refinement, with more nuance. It's a blessing. So Idaho listens. We're going to hear from a dozen different people today. I hope they all have vastly different stories to tell. How boring would it be if they all said the same thing and thought the exact same thought? Okay? Everybody's going to be sound asleep in the audience. How boring would my neighborhood have been where I grew up if everybody robotically was repeating the same sentences? What chance would I have had to learn, to expand my mind, to expand my awareness, to imagine what it might be like to be a different human being? Well, I think the evidence is there that my mom's choice of lifestyle and kindness must be a healthy way to live. Because not only did she cross 100, on her 100th birthday, she played pickleball. So let's launch Idaho Listens today. Let's get to know each other. And beyond today, let's keep doing it. And build a fabric of friendship in our state.
Well, I know Greg Carr is watching from the live stream, and thanks for those remarks. They were wonderful. Especially I appreciated that last line, the fabric of friendship in our state. We have an experiment of sorts this afternoon. We'll shortly hear a group of speakers start to make their ways to the chairs up here for their preparation to come forward. We'll shortly hear from them. And the program outlines our goal clearly. I have it right here. And in a way, you're all familiar with this convention, which is essentially to please hold your applause. Please hold your applause until all have been recognized. But there's a novel quality to that and the spirit of Idaho Listens, a unique quality. And it comes from one of Greg Carr's early comments to me that I have not forgotten. He spoke of reverent listening. So yes, we are here to listen. We're here to listen reverently. We're not here to stop a smile or a nod or perhaps a cheer. Excuse me, we don't want any cheers. A tear. Or a tear, all of that is fine, but please do listen silently and listen reverently, whether you're in agreement or disagreement with what's being said. We encourage that for our live stream audience as well. That is the respect that reverence promises. We also promise conversation will follow. Conversation will follow as we have our dinner at the conclusion of our speakers. The program also notes the courage of our speakers. They face an audience who is not supposed to react while they share important aspects of their lives and values. This is a daunting task. So, you've already warmed up some already, but let's give a warm welcome to all of our speakers sitting here and out in the audience right now. Okay, now I just have a few announcements and some words of thanks, and we'll get right to it. The program outlines the order of speakers, the first followed by a break, then the second speakers. Depending on how we do on timing, I will announce a return time for the break because we do want to move things along during the break so that we can continue to hear from our speakers. So just stay tuned for that. We have a first session, break, second session. Dinner will follow, and that, as I already mentioned, is time for you to have conversation. It'll be served family style, so we're going to force you to have conversation. For example, pass me the Brussels sprouts. Words of thanks. Nancy Buffington. Nancy, just wave your hand, will you? Nancy is a professional coach specializing in public speaking and has been a partner in this project. The words of our speakers are their own, but we wanted to support them with Nancy's expertise, and we very much appreciate her guidance through this process. As we sought to ensure balance among our speakers, who hold different political, economic, and social views, Senator Mike Crapo's office provided early input about the conservative perspective and overall balance of the program. The Institute also, I'm not going to name them, but the Institute for Advancing American Values has 3 faculty fellows, a faculty advisory committee, and an external advisory committee who have lent their support to this evening. There are undergraduate fellows. I am going to ask the undergraduate fellows to stand up wherever they are for the Institute. Stand up because students are also why we're here and to be exposed to different things. And Natalie on the far side there flew in from Tennessee. She's a completely online student who's joined our undergraduate faculty fellows and flew in from Tennessee to be here. So thank you to all of you for being here. Idaho Public Television, as Dr. Tromp mentioned, has been an incredible partner. And as part of that effort, they may wish to speak to some of you tonight around your impressions of this project. The Idaho Humanities Council supported elements of this Idaho Listens through a grant. And we're exploring ways to collaborate with them, especially on an initiative that they're working through called Human Ties, Conversations That Matter, and you can find information on that at their website, Idaho Humanities Council. Dr. Tromp, President Tromp, has invested in this effort every step of the way. And when Greg Carr brought this concept to her more than 2 years ago, she mobilized a few of us on campus to help make it happen. And as has been mentioned, Greg inspired this project. He has challenged me and us to continue Idaho Listens in some shape or form across the state. We know there are more voices to be heard from different regions around the state with different perspectives, so more to come as we develop our next program. But first, we want to commence the inaugural Idaho Listens. I will shortly introduce our first speaker, just a couple other little announcements. We have 2 videos. Toward the end of the first session, one from Andy Avalos, who had other things going on in the last few weeks. And then another of our speakers, Winston Sanders, who had a family emergency, but this was so important to him that he recorded a video for me yesterday. I went out and got it, and Idaho Public Television has been able to sync that up. There are no formal introductions or biographies of the speakers. We wanted them to speak for themselves. So after I bring up Rebecca Evans, our first speaker, the others will just simply follow as they are listed in your program. So with that, Rebecca, please take the stage and let the listening begin.
I'm Rebecca Evans. This is one of my labels, one of my names. I've been married more than once, so I have other last names, and I have some nicknames, Becky and Beckala. There's my Hebrew name, Devorah Leah. And then I've been called some names like, I know you were thinking something else, but mom, sister, aunt, daughter, niece, and I won't mention the less than good names. I'm also a warrior, a Jew, a woman. And then I have some labels that kind of give me status, like I was a pageant queen and I was an elite athlete. I'm a military veteran. I'm a poet. I'm educated. I'm a teacher. I'm a homeowner. I am the head of household in my home. But these are my labels. And sometimes they don't look like they fit all into one person, but I'm complicated. And so are you. I'm a mesh of all who came before me, of every book I've ever read, of every movie I've ever watched, of every violent scene I've borne witness or endured. and so are you. I'm made of the words that I've ingested that were told to me. I am made of social pressure. And I'm ever changing. I mean, the me you meet today will not be the me you see tomorrow. I'm forming and shaping and molding based on my choices and sometimes my damage. And so are you. You might, though, still form judgments just meeting me in our very first moment. I mean, I'm middle-aged, I'm blonde, I talk and dress a certain way. You might form an opinion based on whether my nails are long and manicured or I'm bitten them down to the quick, or if there's dirt shoved in the cuticles, or if my shoes are too polished or too worn or last year's style, or if I have shoes at all, if I'm barefoot. In a blink, we think we know each other. So about 35 years ago, I started wearing this red string. It's a Jewish thing, but it's a reminder to me to not judge anybody. And it's also a protection for me when I'm being judged. It's this energy that we continuously exchange in our very first sacred moment of meeting. If I take just one label of me, being a Jew, it means a lot of things. It's a religion, it's a tradition, it's a bloodline, it's a way of life, it's a culture, it's a race. Not everyone of every culture lives the same way. Not every Jew wears a red string or even prays. We do our race our way. One of my sons doesn't believe in a divine creator, doesn't pray. He eats bacon double cheeseburgers every chance he gets. And he is still a Jew. He is still my son. His race and culture are not based on his diet or whether he recites a blessing. Another label of mine, a teacher. I teach here at BSU. I also teach high school girls in the juvenile system. I do not read their rap sheets when they show up for my class. It doesn't matter to me why they are there. The first thing I tell them is I don't read your rap sheets. You get to write the next chapter of your story however you want to, and it does not have to be based on any of your previous chapters. So we start the session with this little prompt that I use, and I ask them to finish the sentence. If you really knew me, you would know, ... And I start it just to like break the ice, right? And I tell them, if you really knew me, you would know that despite the fact I've earned 2 MFAs, I'm a high school dropout and have a GED. I've been raped more than once. I've tried to take my life twice. I've suffered and still suffer with PTSD and depression and disabilities. I'm a single mom. I've lived very recently on welfare and food stamps and hope and nothing more. These experiences often turn into labels. She's suicidal, she's depressed, she's poor, she's a dropout. But most of us are all of these things. Most of us at some point have been depressed, disabled, poor. Almost everyone I've ever met has dropped out of something at some time. These labels aren't who we are. It's our experiences or situations that shape us, that form us, that sometimes damage us. We share in this human essence. We get to share in our hardships. If you really knew me, you would know that I am bone and flesh and filament. I bleed, I think, I hurt, I weep. And so do you. The best part of me is flesh and heart. So let me share a story. A time when I was in the military. a time I wore this red string and a military uniform, kind of a complicated time, a time from Iraq. Our mission included Batman, Sinop, Salope, and Zaku. And yes, there was a station called Batman, like the superhero, and we thought we were superheroes. We painted a sign with the bat signal and wrote Gotham City Hall above it in front of the police tent there. Our military humor. So the Spanish Air Force gave us oranges, fresh oranges, to deliver to the Kurdish refugees. And there was this boy. He was gaunt, and his belly was distended, and his eyes kind of sunk and bulged at the same time, and I handed him an orange, and he went and sat down and held that orange. And I thought, maybe he's never had a fresh orange. Maybe he doesn't know how to open it, how to peel the rind. So I walked over to him to help him. I tapped him on the shoulder. The orange rolled first, and then the boy in a heap, lifeless, and he sagged to one side. I knelt beside him. I pushed his chin up. I looked at his chest. I looked for the rise of it. I looked for the fall of it. I think I shouted, "Help." He was flat. He was not blinking. But I thought I could save him. I'd been CPR trained. I had buddy care training. I had appropriate I had chemical warfare instruction, POW hostage education. I thought myself a superhero, and I counted 1 and 2 and 3. My hand, one hand over the other, pushing on his chest. My knuckles were calloused, my fingernails bitten, and sweat dripped from my nose into my breasts, into my eyes. My vision blurred, and the boy blurred. And he was beautiful, and he was still. And I thought, maybe he'll return. I thought, I'm not crying. I thought, it's just sweat. This moment, me meeting this boy, someone I was not supposed to save, someone that was supposed to be the enemy, someone I was not supposed to help. But I saw him, flesh and heart. We were not enemies. We are not enemies. If we could only see each other in these continuous sacred moments every time we meet, the real me connecting with that real boy, and the real me connecting with a real you. His life was sacred. My life is sacred. And so is yours.
The prompt we got, what do we value and why? Family was the first thing that came to my mind. Since the day I was born to now and forever, family will be with you always. Family is something that will be different and can be defined in various ways as we journey through this life. Based on our own circumstances, we may have a family that doesn't share genetics but may share values and a purpose. I was born in 1986 and I grew up in Parma, Idaho. I can't quite see it from here, but I know it's over there. I'm a fourth-generation Idahoan, and my family taught me the importance of love, dedication, and service. Those principles were modeled through the years and expected of me as I grew up. Throughout my life, I have come to the realization that most everything I do can be tied back to my family. The lessons taught and experience that I have had with my family have impacted my moral compass as well as my friend choices. I believe that the family structure is the basis of a functioning society, and as the family unit breaks down, society will soon follow. Growing up on a family farm, I was able to learn at a very young age that anything in life worth having will take hard work, dedication, and some level of sacrifice. In my high school years, I remember in the month of September, similar to now, I would help get these 40-foot aluminum sprinkler lines out of the potato field in preparation for harvest. This would happen after school and after football practice. I grew up working with my sisters and my cousins doing these various jobs, like irrigating, spraying weeds, hand weeding onion fields, and tractor driving. It was during these times that relationships were built and improved in positive work environments. There were times that were stressful and difficult, but through communication and a knowledge that we were all seeking the same end goal, the work was completed and bonds were strengthened. The principles of patience and cooperation were definitely at play. From July 2006 to July 2008, I served a full-time mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Mexico City. As an Idaho farm boy moving to a city with nearly 20 million people, life was a little different, and it was an adjustment. During my time there, I was able to meet thousands of people and their own families. They love, serve, and sacrifice for their families, just like we do here. And I imagine it be the same to be across the globe. It is in our families where we find meaning, purpose, and identity. These families may be defined as parents and children, religious groups, college sororities or fraternities, or even workplace colleagues. As an employee of local and migrant employees, I see the impacts that are felt amongst families that are divided by a border. Currently, we have 8 contracted employees from Mexico that come here to work for 8 months out of the year, leaving their families with the sole intention of earning as much money as possible to take home and improve their living conditions. One of these employees in the first year coming to work here, he was able to earn enough money to improve their homes so they had indoor plumbing and a concrete floor covered with tile. From what I have experienced, we all seek the same things in this life: joy and happiness for those that we love, and an ability to choose for ourselves the best way to make it happen. I have 6 children with my wife, Krista, and I believe it is my duty and privilege to teach them the values and lessons that I have learned. There's a phrase passed down through our family that we aren't just raising crops on the farm, we are raising kids. They need to understand the importance of patience, perseverance, hard work, love, compassion, sympathy, knowledge, honesty, kindness, loyalty, humility, and selflessness. That is a lot of things to help them learn, but I believe it is a sacrifice that we all need to be willing to make. Within our family units, we are better equipped to teach each other and help each other learn how to navigate the difficult decisions that we will be faced with. Families are not all the same, and for some, they may be points of pain. Family, as I see it, can include neighbors or anyone that shares a common purpose or simply those that we hold dear. I believe that if we can see each other as members of a greater family with the shared goal of showing love and empathy for each other as we seek joy and happiness, many problems that we face today can be resolved through listening, discussion, and understanding. I farm to feed families, and in turn, those families can nourish themselves with love, kindness, understanding, and patience. I regularly attend church not because I'm perfect, but because I know I can improve. I'm teaching my kids those same concepts so that we can become better. And that's why I'm here today. Thank you.
My name is Laura Alvarez Schrag. I want you to imagine being 11, 12 years old, going to a restaurant with your mother and your 2 siblings, older siblings, and this being a pretty special occasion because it's not something that you can do often. You sit, the waitress starts to come to take orders, starting with your mother. Your heart starts to pound because you know that eventually they're going to get to you and you're going to have to place your order. With every order, they get closer to you, and finally it's your turn. The waitress asks, "What would you like?" Your heart is pounding, your eyes are welled up with tears, your voice is shaking, and you're able to say, "I'll have a hamburger." And then she says, "What side would you like?" Now it takes every last little ounce of energy that you have in your being to squeeze out the word fries. Everything becomes a bit of a blur, except for, of course, the teasing and the mocking from your older siblings, teasing that actually follows you for a few years. Let me give you a little bit of background, and we'll come back to that story. My parents immigrated to this country from Mexico, not knowing anything about the country, not knowing the language, not knowing how it worked, but knowing that even though they didn't know what they were coming to, that it was still a path for a better life. And so they came here. And they knew that at some point, eventually when they had children, it would continue to be the right choice. They worked in agriculture with my father at one point, securing a permanent position on a farm, which was huge because that offered ongoing work. My mother securing a job at Simplot, if any of you remember Simplot plant out in Caldwell. I am the youngest of 6 children, born in Arizona, but then raised in Caldwell at about the age of 3 when my parents finally decided to settle in Idaho and stop the migration between states. They learned to navigate, the system, not knowing what the system was. They learned to speak English just through hearing, listening, and friends supporting them. They even learned to read to some extent, but yet still had limitations because their proficiency was, still at a level that it was still hard to navigate all the systems. So relied heavily on their children to help serve as interpreters and translators. At about the age of 13, 14, that then became something that I helped to do. And so you might be thinking, wow, how did you do that if you couldn't even order your lunch? How can you even be standing up here today, given that you were that 11, 12-year-old? Well, you see, my parents raised us with some very core key values of having a strong work ethic, the importance of family and always supporting your family, perseverance, and always lending a helping hand. So when my mother and my father looked to me to help with interpreting when they went to a doctor's visit, interpreting when they went to a parent-teacher conference, interpreting sometimes when they were just shopping, the need and the responsibility to be there for them was stronger and more important than the fear that I had in speaking and overcoming a painful shyness, not just shy, but painful shyness. Because I knew that I was there to help and support and be a part of helping my family. Now you may think, well, okay, and then what with that? Well, that really put me on a journey of finding my voice, finding my own individual voice to advocate for myself, but then also with the ability, and even more so importantly, to advocate for my family and advocate for others. So I embarked in this journey of, how do I find that? How do I find the strength to have a voice so that I can be of service and support? And it showed up, the learning showed up in the discovery in some pretty, sometimes kind of silly, weird ways that I want to share a story with you. When I was dating my now husband of 29 years, which is pretty amazing and phenomenal. I remember dating, we went to McDonald's. We drove through McDonald's. We're going to buy an order of fries that we could share because we didn't have a whole lot of money. We were in our 20s, and 2 drinks. There is a pattern with the fries, apparently, because it must be an Idaho thing. I was always ordering fries. So he asked, what would you like to drink? I said, oh, I'll have a small Coke. And he's like, well, but for 10 cents more, we can upsize that. You can get a huge drink. I'm like, no, thank you. I want a small Coke. He's like, but really? But it's just 10 cents more. I can order that for you. And I said, no, I'm okay with the small. I don't want a large drink. And so he's like, okay. So he ordered the small Coke, and he ordered the biggie size for himself. And while that might seem like a really silly kind of experience and learning, what I took from that is that was part of me learning to have my voice, to advocate for myself, to say this is what I want. In a very safe, low risk, right? Stakes weren't high, but it was safe. I had somebody who was listening to me, somebody who said and heard me and said, okay, even though they made a different choice, they respected my choice. So with that, learning, again, starting to find my own voice, it started to really kind of amp up as I started my career, my professional career, and I found myself as an HR professional using my voice not only to advocate for myself in my career and in my growth, but to advocate for others, to bring into conversation the decisions that were being made in a boardroom or in a meeting, to ensure that we were asking the questions, how does this affect people? What do people need? What is going on in their lives that might be affecting how they show up? And like I said, advocating for others was always easier for me. Personally, I also started to become very involved in the community and in nonprofit organizations, primarily organizations focused on social services, social justice, reaching out to the marginalized communities, communities like my own that I came from, my parents came from, addressing the barriers that existed for them, be it language, be it economics, being just access. And I discovered that not only was it an opportunity as I participated in these organizations, an opportunity to bring forth another voice, bring forth another experience, but it was a responsibility to pose the questions, how are people being impacted? What do they have to overcome? What are the barriers? What are their limitations? How can we help? How can we make decisions that take all those things into consideration to extend a lending hand? My husband and I, over our 29 years, have made some very difficult and challenging life-impacting decisions in order to really, in many cases, support my higher purpose of service professionally and personally. We've made decisions where I've been able to have those opportunities to advocate, have those opportunities to be that voice in the room for others when they are not able to be there, when they have not been invited to the table, and I happen to be. So it hasn't been easy. And it isn't easy when we have a different experience to bring. We have a different reality to bring. But it's important. It's important that we hear that. And now, while I will say I don't have difficulty ordering in restaurants anymore, my husband will attest to that. I'm very much a on the side type of person. Can you please hold the onions, put this dressing on the side? So I don't get choked up with that anymore. But I do, at times, still have those experiences where the tears are welling up, my voice is shaking, when I'm trying to share for others that they're with people actually that maybe might be resistant to hearing a different perspective, a different reality, people who maybe they're just not ready to hear it. But I feel like I have to share it. That is my higher purpose. That is my responsibility. It is my privilege. And so yes, those emotions sometimes show up because it's hard. It's hard to speak truth. It's hard sometimes to be heard because I'm not always heard. But I believe that to be heard is to be seen. And I believe that everybody deserves to be heard and to be seen. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Winston Sanders, and I want to express my gratitude for the opportunity to share why I believe that the freedoms we enjoy, the rights that are described in our founding documents, and understanding where they originate from is so important to me and to what I believe to be the economic, social, and spiritual well-being of our nation as a whole. And I wanted to start off by citing what Thomas Jefferson wrote in the opening paragraphs of our Declaration of Independence. He starts off by saying, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impelled them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Jefferson believed that our Constitution and Declaration of Independence are inextricably conjoined, and to understand one is essential to understanding the other. According to Jefferson, if we recognize that our freedoms and rights as enumerated in our Constitution originate from our Creator, we will recognize that they are self-evident, that they are natural, universal, and inalienable, and that they're intended for all people, regardless of national heritage, transcending every form of government instituted by men. Regardless of what else we may believe we are entitled to, in a free society, we are entitled to these rights and liberties as they are enumerated in our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution without government encroachment. We are a constitutional republic as opposed to an unfettered democracy or conventional republic because by definition, a democracy is the will of the majority becoming the law of the land. To illustrate the problems of an unfettered democracy, if the majority decides to vote on imposing slavery, the confiscation of property, whether it be the property of every one of its citizens as a whole or certain groups within it, then it becomes the law of the land. And that regardless of whatever problematic aspects of that would look like, it is nonetheless imposed on the whole of society. Even in these United States, when the extent to which our Constitution has been either disregarded or circumvented, it is the same extent to which we have experienced these infringements ourselves, whether as a whole or certain groups among us. In any system of government, pragmatism and utilitarianism, devoid of constitutional law, deriving from natural, universal, and inalienable principles, inevitably culminate in all the predictable atrocities attested to in history. We've witnessed these atrocities in virtually every system of government without a constitution such as ours, preventing them while enumerating and guaranteeing the rights and liberties of its people. Without inalienable natural rights being recognized as originating from an all-powerful and benevolent creator, the governments of men are relegated to being established on the arbitrary opinions of men. Consequently, when government are determined to impose laws which disregard and undermine life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without a constitution to secure them, there would be no immutable moral law which would otherwise prevent them. Our constitutional principles, birthed out of our Judeo-Christian values, protect and maintain the rights and liberties of a free people. They assign value to life, property, freedom of speech and thought, define and condemn murder, theft, and a host of other civil terms which establish social and legal ethics and contracts to ensure domestic tranquility, enumerate inalienable rights, and to prevent the oppressive and destructive extremes of tyranny and anarchy. Thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing what the other contributors have to share as well.
Hello, my name is Shadi Ismail. Let's get to it. Later March this year, Friday night around 10 o'clock, I was doing Uber. I picked up a lady from Vista Street, a Torch Bar, if anybody know where is it. That lady got in my car and she said to me, "Where are you from?" Immediately, I felt something tricks in my body. I'm like, I live here. She's like, "No, where are you from?" I said, "I'm from Syria originally, but I am American citizen." "So you didn't born here," she said. I said, "No, but I live here and I'm American citizen." So she told me, "Well, you shouldn't be here." I said, "My lady, sorry, let me back up." She said, "You shouldn't be here because you didn't born here." I said, "My lady, I wasn't born here, yes, but I put 13 years of my life to earn my place here." She told me, "But you still shouldn't be here." To be honest, I was so angry and I felt so hole in my heart. So I parked the car and I let her go. I told her, "Please leave my car." She said, "You don't want to take me home?" I said, "Well, you said you don't care about me. I shouldn't be here because I wasn't born here. You're born here, you figure out." And I was so upset, I didn't continue work that night and I went home. But that night made a hole in my heart, for real. And I didn't know what I want to do. Like anything I do, I've been here 10 years, and anything I do will never make me American because obviously it's have a truth to it. I didn't born here. Later on, maybe for 3 weeks, we had a session. Actually, I work with Idaho Office for Refugees, Refugee Speaker Bureau. So we do actually speak to students or speak to events about story. We try to build the bridges through that. That day, we had a session with the school from BSU, actually, with social workers who is working, studying to be a social worker. They did give me really hope that day, because I saw how bright they are. They ask the right question. They are very worried about what we feel or what we see. But that day, a lady, a student, asked a question and made me, like, literally, this is the question. She said, when refugees stop being refugee? And that moment, I'm like, yes, this is the question in my mind and my heart, like when I stop being looked at as outsider when I've been here 10 years. So my dear friend Salome actually responded to that question by legally, like the refugee status is just a status to enter in the country. When you become American citizen after 5 years, you're no longer as a refugee. But did not feel me hard, because I did tell to that lady, I am American citizen, but she said she still did not born here. That made me still have the hole in my heart. But the student, when they did ask that question, start directed to myself. So I start asking myself, what make me American? What does make me actually, why I want to be American in the first place? Or what's American to me look like? So this brings me back 10 years ago when I just arrived to America. 3 days after I was here, I don't speak the language. Truly, I say hi and smile all day because I never spoke it before. I was living on the Curtis Street. I come through the IRC for immigration, IRC for refugees, and they give me a bike and a bunch of addresses to go to English Language Center, and actually was located in Boise downtown on 13th Street. But little I know, I took my bike, I rode my bike from Curtis following the bus downtown. I didn't know you can put the bike on the bus. But I followed the bus downtown. I got in Boise 13th Street, and there I had to walk. And I didn't know where I walked because I started trying to match whatever I see, matching the letters on my hand, but I didn't see anything matching it. In that moment, I started panicking, truly panicking. And back in Jordan, when I was waiting for coming to America, they told me, why are you going to Idaho? When I got approved to come to Idaho. Why are you going to Idaho? It's all of a red state, and they hate Arab. In that moment, I remembered, oh my God, I am here in nowhere, and they hate people like me. What I'm doing here? I have no phone, nothing. But universe always work with magical way, for real. That moment, a lady walked to me, like with a smile on her face. So I got the courage and I said, hi, with the address in my hand. She looked at me, and she, come on, grabbed me by my hand, walked with me behind the post office, because the school was on that time behind the post office, told me, you see this door? Good luck. For real. And that moment, I felt happy, I felt safe. I don't know, now I don't understand why, but in that time, I felt life, it's open up to myself. And I had actually started my life here, been 10 years now. I'm very grateful for that lady who actually showed me what the heart of Idaho is the kindness for a stranger. For no labels, labels was, oh, be careful, it's red state. Well, it doesn't matter, they are still people, they still are heart. And I'm grateful for this lady specific. And then I'm grateful for those girls who's actually made me happy to see our new generation in so many ways. They direct the question to myself, make me asking myself what make me American, not by labeled how I born or where I born, what I become. And I'm grateful for that lady who raised the question in the first place. Yeah, maybe I was mad and I stopped the car, but today if I go back to that moment, I will take her home because I have to show her kindness as well. But she put me on a journey, and I'm grateful for that journey she put me on, because now I understand, not just a piece of paper. Like now I'm speaking English, I've never been to school for it. I learn from people, through the road, this past 10 years, people give me one word, teach me how to speak it. This is cute how you say it, but this is the right way. So I learn everything become in me today, it's by a product of everyone else. Everyone was putting me one word, teach me something. Now I have very, very nice job. I have a home. I have a piece of land. I plant my flower, my garden, and I'm grateful, just I want to say. But at the same time, I want to say I'm grateful for all of you to be here today, for real, for everybody who's listening, for everybody who's knowing the Idaho or America in general. Today, the government made me really have goosebumps because when he was speaking about what Idaho is, the mix of Idaho, the culture we bring, this is what it's about. Like we bring, like when Idaho accepting refugees in general or immigrant, they are bringing the whole culture. Like I work with Idaho Office for Refugees when we share something called KIT Cross Country, and this is a project, I love this project so much because it's not about just what we do, it's about what we're sharing. We go to places, school or online, we do cooking classes. Come on, everybody loves food. Truly, and you bring this all culture in and you share food, you share why it's about. And I will leave it this way, so thank you.
Andy Avalos, after taking over the job, knowing the expectations to this program, having been a player here, an assistant here, and they walk into Provo, get down 10-0 early in the game, and come back to beat BYU.
Hi, I'm Andy Avalos, head football coach at Boise State. Thank you to everyone who put on this event today and who has brought Idaho Listens together. I apologize that I cannot be here today, but I'm very grateful and thankful for the opportunity to talk to you guys about some experiences over the course of the years that I've been involved in college athletics, either as a student athlete and or as a football coach within the communities of these colleges that I've been a part of. One of the things that I cherish the most that I learned while I was in college is having the opportunity to learn and grow into a new environment, away from home. I was originally from Southern California, and moving to Boise, Idaho was a challenge. And once I found my way and I grew myself into this university and into this community and into this state, I was able to help lead our football program and help other young men around me come together. And that's one of the things that I cherish most about my playing experience at Boise State. The challenge in creating a united family out of a team is to get everybody to align their self-interest with the greater good of the family. And that's in a business organization, that's within our families at home, that's within our football team, as I just said. Because the most natural thing to do for all of us is to align ourselves with what's best for us only. And when you're a part of something that's bigger than yourself, we've got to look at what is the important things with the greater good of that organization that we are a part of, and how can we have an impact on the greater being by aligning ourselves with those things. And I think that's the challenge in bringing people together and having an understanding and being able to see, well, what does it look like in someone else's shoes? How can I help this person? Yes, I obviously don't want to put myself in a position that is not going to be favorable, but I can always meet people halfway, and I think that's one of the greatest things about playing and being a part of such a big team sport like football, is that it's about meeting people halfway and really getting to know them so that we can help serve and have an impact on them. Teamwork started at home as we were growing up. We all had responsibilities and chores within our household. If our job is to take out the trash, we got to take out the trash or the kitchen's going to start to stink. You know, and if we didn't take out the trash, there's a problem within our family, within our team. Even from the time when we were young kids, we've always been a part of a team and responsibilities to do the work to make that team successful. For us here at Boise State, we talk to our players all the time about the certain skills and habits that it takes for us to accomplish and be successful within our roles of a team. And those skills and habits are easily defined for us as being above the line or below the line. And that's really a big part of what we spoke about earlier when we're talking about aligning ourselves with the greater good. If our skills, our habits, our values are aligned with the greater good, then we're going to be above the line. we are going to be working together as a team, and now we are a united family. The value of bringing people together is one of the most important things in this life, one of the most important things that we will get to do in our time. And this can be done on many different levels, as we spoke about today, in many different settings. The value of getting people to believe in a greater good and aligning themselves with the greater good has a tremendous impact on lives and on organizations, families, teams. They create the teamwork necessary to be successful in life, and not just in terms of being productive with a certain performance goal, but more importantly, it allows people to come together and to understand each other, to build camaraderie, and to meet each other, in the middle where maybe there are differences. And that is one of the funnest things that we get to be a part of within college athletics, is bringing people together, helping them find common ground where there may be differences, and helping them understand different perspectives, and being able to grow forward together to achieve our goal.
So thank you again for your silent listening. We will continue with that as our way of interacting until the very end. And so we will just start as we did in the first session by bringing up a speaker. We'll bring Michelle up to have us listen once again.
These are really just props to distract you in case I trip or fall or throw up or something. I am insatiably curious. If curiosity were the only qualifier for a job, I would crush it. And because I'm curious, I do something and actually ask for a little audience participation. I'm going to avoid eye contact with Andrew. It's just like a hand raising. And you don't have to participate also. So we'll start with an easy question. Raise your hand if you were born in one of the following years: 1932, 1944, 1956, 1968, 1980, 1992, 2004, or 2016. If you raise your hand, congratulations, because you too were born in the year of the monkey, and perhaps you are naturally curious. Who here has a niece or a nephew? I'm going to tell you about one of mine, and would certainly love to hear about one of yours too. Last November, my husband and I took a trip to Seattle to visit my family. I guess it's our family. We've got 4 nephews between my 2 siblings, and the youngest is Asher. At the time, he was 9, and we got to check out some of his artwork. This one immediately caught my eye. And it wasn't even just this one, but all of his work is really so amazing. And as is normal for me, I started peppering him with all sorts of questions. What's your favorite medium? What inspires what you create? What were you feeling when you drew this one? Why is the body of this bird, not this one, why is the body of this bird colored with blue paint and white clouds and flying through the night sky? There were tons of questions. And finally, he asked, "Komo," which means ant in Korean. Why are you asking me so many questions? Ashi, because your artwork is so incredible. You are so incredible. And I just want to understand. He squirmed a bit, uncomfortable with all the attention from me. But I could tell he appreciated it. He was delighted to find this one up in our house when he came and visited us last month, and was much more cooperative to my onslaught of questions. If we were seated at a table together, like us, I'd want to ask some of you about your relationships with your nephews and nieces. And how do you handle it when they become a teenager and decide it's no longer cute to hold your hand or snuggle? because I just don't think my heart will be able to handle it. Question number 3. How many of us have ever been misunderstood? Isn't it a terrible feeling when someone makes a wrong assumption about us based on the limited information they had? I think questions and curiosity promote understanding and meaningful connection. In 2020, when COVID was making its rounds, it was certainly not helpful when it was labeled as the China virus. It was frightening to read about the increase in violence toward Asian Americans and the feeling that I had to be extra polite, extra positive, extra peppy, as if to say, I'm not a threat. When I went on a mountain bike ride or gravel ride some 10, 20, 30 miles out of town, there were moments I would tense up as cars passed, or as I passed cars, hunters, and folks cruising around on their ATVs. There were a number of times I said to my girlfriends, a couple of whom are here today, that I'm glad to be riding with them and other white women. But I realized that I, too, was making assumptions. A month ago, my husband and I were backpacking at Twin Lakes over by Baker City. A family hiked by our campground, and we chatted a bit as they passed through. The dad was wearing some boots and had a gun on his hip. Many of you are probably used to having guns around, but I definitely am not. And quite frankly, they make me just a little bit uncomfortable. That said, we had a fun, short conversation about the trails and other hikes in the area. And like I did with my nephew, I ended up having at least a half dozen questions for them, sparked by my curiosity about how one hikes in cowboy boots. It turns out that some of the work variety have rubber soles. Didn't know that. We had a couple more interactions over the course of the day. It was fun hearing about goats that they had spotted, the hike that they took up the ridge, and to see their collection of quartz. I'm also still kind of curious to know if they had like all these like really big quartz, and I'm curious to know if they actually like lugged them back down in their backpacks. Before going to bed that night, I pondered my own prejudices. I thought, if my bike had a flat and the sun had started to come down, and the father of that group was walking up the road, I would have taken one look at him and made some assumptions. Turns out they were a lovely family who were doing a multi-night trip just like us and enjoying the beautiful mountains. And thanks to our mutual curiosities and willingness to engage, I think we all left with a little understanding of each other. Number 4, let's try an easy question. Who has a set of prescription lenses, contacts, or has had LASIK? Okay. Keep your hand up if that prescription is the same as it was when you first started wearing glasses. It doesn't count if you're like 2 years older. Okay. Young folks over there. Like our eyes, many of us will change over time. Not just physically, but our intelligence, perspective. Originally, I had planned to speak about the shift I experienced in my worldview over the last several years. So I'm just going to do kind of like a little mini version of it. A period that I call my midlife crisis. The lens through which I perceive the world now is a little bit different than it was before. But my parents, namely my mom, keeps comparing who I am now to who I was when I was 12. You were so sweet, kind, and obedient, she would say. My response is that I was not young, naive, forced to go to church, and too scared to speak up. I lived much of my life through the lens of a good Christian woman, through the lens of like what a good Christian woman is supposed to do, and made choices based on how Korean American Christian culture dictated that I behave, how I should live. But this tame lifestyle felt limiting and oppressive and not authentically me. And after 39 years in the church, I decided it was time for a new prescription. I won't go into much detail about what the following years looked like. I'll leave that to your curiosity. But it definitely felt like a pendulum swing at times. And I'm happy to say that I'm finally hovering at a place that feels authentically me. Each long conversation with my mom, like just a few days ago, includes her telling me that she's praying for me and that she wants me to find a good church, that's where I will find all of my answers, And I remind her, I did that for 39 years. I'm glad it works for you, I tell her, and I sincerely, genuinely mean that. But this is not for me. Like many of you, the glasses I'm wearing today, I just got these like a week ago, are not the same ones I wore when I was 17. I'd be curious to know about your own faith journey and how that's evolved over time. Question number 5. The box. Okay, 5th question. Who is curious to know what is inside the box? It could be a puppy. Terrible life for a puppy. It could be a stuffed puppy. It could be a costume of a puppy. Puppy's just kind of like on my head right now. It's actually an empty box. Sorry, it's kind of disappointing. But how much more interesting are the people around us? I know when I come home and I see an Amazon box on my doorstep, I get super excited, which seems kind of silly because the things that I order on Amazon are things that I've ordered, so I know that it's coming, so I know what to expect. But yet when I see this box, it's so exciting. But we have people around us, we have people at our tables that are way more exciting than the new brake pads that I got for my mountain bike, which I failed to install properly a couple days ago. We have incredible people around us at our tables and around, the tables around. So how much more interesting might those conversations be? And lastly, who is curious to hear from our next speaker?
Good evening. My name is Brad Blair. The prompt that we were given is, what do you value and why? What seems like such a simple question was an incredible opportunity for me to reflect and spend some time with myself in order to hopefully have a conversation with you here tonight. What I value is life. It seems simple, but it's complicated. Something that we all value, hopefully, and all understand in the ways that we do. But my hope is to help you hear why it's so important and so valuable to me. I got to take you back to my childhood. I was brought to Idaho at 5 years old and immediately knew that it was different. It was special. And so many people are continuing to see what it has to bring for their families, for their lives, and appreciate how it is different and how we can continue to keep it different for those beneficial ways. But also, we're inclusive. We appreciate the opportunity to bring in things that maybe we don't know or understand. So why is that important to me, and how does it affect my childhood? Well, growing up in a Christian conservative home, there was never a wrong answer in the sense of who you were or how you were raised. There was the way that I was raised, and that was something that was put on me to be a young man who was honest, on time, and appreciative of the things that had been put before me and set before me, not things that I had gained on my own. Also is true about life. It's one thing that regardless of how hard I try, or it's not up to me to simply say I can improve on my own. I have everything to sustain me and to maintain life. It's just not true. It takes all of you. It takes things that are provided to me. It takes the air that we are breathing. So when I say the prompt was simple, but life is complicated, I don't think I have enough time to share how complicated it is. But I can appreciate the values that my family bestowed onto me, such as life. When somebody's stuck on the side of the road in the middle of the night and doesn't know where to turn, when somebody has broke down, and I'm going to use a lot of automotive examples here. My dad he's been a journeyman technician, heavy-duty diesel technician my whole life. I've never understood what it means to give away more than getting to see my dad give away his own time. And there's nothing more important in our lives than our time. It's the one thing that we have the choice to control or choose to give away. And I'm going to share another story, just the opportunity to spend time with my dad. Everybody, I'm sure, knows where Garden Valley, Idaho is. I had the opportunity to work on the side of a mountain replacing a clutch. And I thought we were going to go home early when we had the wrong clutch to install. We got it in, and it was wrong. And in that moment, I realized that life is not just about my dad, me, the project at hand. It's all of the things that we are working together to establish the continued involvement of who we are as people. I didn't choose to be born, but my parents, and I had the opportunity, I'm very lucky to have two parents in my household, they chose to give me life and to continue to sustain and continue to raise me in a meaningful way. That's where I've had the example to do the same for myself. I've made the choice at a young age. I was 19 years old when I got married and started a family. It's a complex time in my life because I also decided to join the military. I joined the military at 17 years old. It's another thing that's very simply but complex. It's changed my view of what life actually is and how we can sustain it and also sacrifice it. It's through those instances that I realized that I have the opportunity to continue to go forth and share my life with other people. My life is not my own, and that is why I value it. And I appreciate the opportunity to stand before you here tonight and share my life with you, not because I'm special, not because I'm perfect, not because I'm unique, although those things may be true, but I've struggled and I've accepted the opportunity to continue life, and hopefully in a meaningful way. One thing that I've learned throughout my life is as we continue to participate, it's just that we're participating with the opportunity to live. Those things are not given to us, they're not gifted to us. We have an opportunity to participate with the things that we have and what we've been given. Life is fragile. It can be taken away in an instant. Life is hard. And we have to continue to show up, not just for ourselves and other people, but to continue in the story that is ours to write, but it also has been written for us, such as being in a great state of Idaho. I'm here. I'm very fortunate. I'm thankful that I get to live in a state like this, where things are aligned with maybe my principles, but also they're not, and I have the opportunity to have conversations and understand where people are coming from. I've been around the world. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan and Mexico and Canada and all kinds of other places, and it brings me back to appreciate the things that are here in Idaho. My gratitude to continue on in my professional life now is one of that I get to enforce and relay the message to other people as well. Your life means something. And that's not just a professional task, it's a personal task. It's the opportunity to come alongside other veterans in the state of Idaho and to invite people here into the state of Idaho to continue to participate and enjoy what we have and what's been maintained and created here for us to live in this great state. It can't be without said that because I value life, I will continue to choose life, and I will continue to encourage other people to choose life, not just by living, but by creating life and participating with what that actually means and answering the call to be parents, if that's something you have the opportunity to do. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here saying, I'm not perfect. I'm not a golden child or poster boy by any means. My family is maybe among those that are screwed up, and they're young kids. And I here hopefully can just say, I want to look back, and I hope my parents who are here tonight look at me and say, you know, we did a lot of things right, and we did a lot of things that we'd change. However, that's what I'm accepting today, is that I have the opportunity to look at my life, to accept where I've made short, and continue in progress in moving forward. Thank you.
Tots kulawit. Himakis kaitiel yao inam himuma inam lautiwa inam hanyuwat. Good evening. My name is Rebecca Miles. It is quite an honor and a privilege to be heard this evening. I am a citizen of the Nez Perce tribe, and I was born and raised on the Nez Perce Indian Reservation. The name of my tribe is Nimipu, before white contact. I am also a United States citizen and a resident of Idaho. I want to say that you will probably find 11 different views and values this evening, which is good. Diversity is good. However, I'm quite certain in the end, you'll probably find more similarities between us than differences. My entire life, all I knew was that I was Nez Perce, and my view of the world was from a lens so small that I only saw my life on the reservation from my own people. My grandparents had a very strong role in my upbringing, especially my grandfather, my Kalutza, which is paternal grandfather. I would say that while he did not directly tell me to live my life this way or that way, it is through his example that really developed me into who I am today. I ask you to see life from my view for just a few minutes this evening. And I need to put my glasses on, sorry. I had the real blessing of having some grand experiences in my young life and to really see my career on the fast track when I turned 30, acquiring leadership positions within my tribe, and that included elected leadership. That experience would find me becoming the first woman chair of the Nez Perce tribe after just 1 year in office. It is through that accomplishment I was also fortunate to do so many other things, including becoming a fellow to the prestigious German Marshall Memorial Fellowship, traveling to many countries throughout Europe. This once-in-a-lifetime opportunity would give me a worldview that I strongly desired, along with giving me quite a gut punch when I did not expect it. And that gut punch was this. At the age of 32, I said these 4 words for the very first time. I am an American. I realized that was the very first time I ever spoke those words, and they were so much and very true part of my identity that I never quite felt a part of until that very moment. My fellowship would also allow me to travel the great River Rhine, where my grandfather fought in World War II. In Poland, I walked the grounds of Warsaw and Birkenau and was led by a young Polish man that worked as an interpreter for the grounds. After the very emotional tour of walking into the gas chambers where millions and millions of Jews and Poles were murdered, I thought of my own history and of my ancestors, where similar piles of bodies of my people were often proudly piled in similar fashion in an effort to tame the West. I gave a coin from the United States war against the Nez Perces in 1877. This coin was minted by my tribe in 1977. I asked this young man how could he be on these grounds every day, as it was such a profound experience for me for just 2 hours. He said, I have to tell the story of what happened here. He had to be there every day to tell the truth and ensure the legacy of his grandparents, who both survived the terrible existence at the death camps, and in hopes that history would not repeat itself. It happened to be as well that this young man happened to be a coin collector, so we were connected in a way for life. My eyes were filled with tears that day, and I found no words the rest of the day as I sat in silence. In Spain, I was able to learn the terrible existence of Franco's rule from the survivors of that era. I fell in love with Picasso in a completely different way that I was ever taught in American schools. I learned that those pieces of artwork were the actual experience and the terrible history that they all lived through. I found myself learning a lot about the world and just how similar our existence is today and how it shapes our values in life today. As my grandfather reached his time on earth, I learned something about this highly accomplished man. I knew he was a professional baseball player in the 1920s. He was a veteran of both World War I and World War II. He had achieved 6 degrees. He was an educator and a coach of many schools in Idaho and Oregon, and that he was a Presbyterian minister. It was not until he died in 1994 that I learned a secret about my grandfather that shaped the woman that I am today. My grandfather was an ex-con. You can find his picture in the old Idaho State Penitentiary here in Boise under David James Miles. I apologize. He was convicted of murder in the 1st degree in the early 20s. They arrested him actually while he was on a movie set years and years ago for some Western movie that he obviously didn't appear in. He served his time in prison and moved on with his life. As you heard, I said he was highly accomplished despite this conviction. Part of my own father's angst about his dad's conviction was that they constantly moved from school to school. He was called by the Nez Perce County Courthouse, where a judge told him that he was exonerated from his crime. My grandfather was born in 1904. It was this court proceeding where they would tell my grandfather that he had actually been pardoned by the governor of Idaho all those years ago. Someone came forward with evidence back then, shortly after his conviction, that he was innocent, and his murder conviction was actually overturned. Yet nobody told my grandfather until the judge did on this day in 1977. The Lewiston Morning Tribune captured his face just as he learned this news as a very old man, making the front page, a glimpse of an entire life summed up in one photo. And obviously it still brings tears to my eyes. I was 5 at the time, and all my life I never knew. I could not even possibly think that something so awful could happen to somebody. That stuff only happened in the movies, yet my own loving grandfather experienced this. His family did, his wife and children, essentially we all did. He went on to accomplish things more than 2 or 3 men could accomplish in one lifetime. And yet I never knew him to have enemies, or even if he did not pass them on to his next generation. He never spoke ill of anyone. This included the harsh discrimination he had gone through. My grandparents gave of themselves throughout their entire lives. I am reminded when they told their grandchildren when they fed the many families and helped them survive the Great Depression on the Camas Prairie near Cottonwood and Grangeville, something that had no effect on our people. We had no idea what that experience was like because we had no money invested. We didn't lose anything at the time. I mention all these experiences because they shape me. They shape the woman I am. As I reach a major milestone, turning the big 5-0 in a few months, I find myself still learning to live up to my grandfather's example. He was a true statesman, a man of the highest degree of integrity and ethics I ever knew. All he wanted to do was live in peace and love life. He didn't want to be rich. He didn't want to be a rich man, for he could not take those riches with him to the next life. He wanted his children and grandchildren to live life in peace, be successful, and be proud of their families. I find myself more and more demanding that of myself, for I too experience life struggles, failures, discrimination. How do I react? Sometimes not always with grace and dignity that would live up to the example I was raised with. How do I want those struggles to make me? After traveling parts of the world and having a strong foundation from my grandpa, I realize we all simply want the same thing, to be able to raise our families as we choose in a loving and safe environment, and to be able to thrive and celebrate life. We all want peace in our lives. And as humans, we'll all experience failure. We lose loved ones. We have tragedies befall us. Yet can we be empathetic to each other, knowing as humans, we basically experience the same exact things regardless of our skin color, the language we speak, or the religion we choose to follow. All living things on earth require two things to live: oxygen and water. Yet in today's world, we're going out of our way, finding all our differences to survive. We often allow intolerance of other ways of living and believing to invade our own space and our own peace. We allow the extra energy it takes to focus on something we do not like, rather than enjoying and celebrating the beautiful things we love. As a proud citizen of the Nez Perce tribe, the United States, and as a proud Idahoan, I am a lifelong learner, a proud mother of 2 biological sons, and a proud mother to 4 additional children where either they didn't have a mother or their mother asked me to love their daughter as if she was your own. I'm going to work hard to live life with integrity in these remaining years I have left on earth. We all will meet our Maker in this lifetime. Time goes by so fast. I hope that we all make more of our time here on earth. And as my ancestors would often say, leave a lot of wonderful memories of yourself and only footprints that you were once here on this earth. I just came from Seattle as I work for the Potlatch Fund, a nonprofit out of that area. And we always honor the Duwamish people of that area that eventually became Seattle, named after Chief Seattle. And I leave you this quote. Chief Seattle once said, "Man does not weave the web of life. He merely is a strand of it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself." Thank you.
A body can go without food for weeks, and a body can go without water for days, minutes without air. But you can't go 5 seconds without hope and faith. Hope and faith is the anchor of my soul. And without an anchor, it's easy to drift. Personal, professional, family, community. Storms are inevitable, but my anchor is immovable. I am not what happened to me. I am who I choose to become. And values shape your decisions, and your decisions will shape your life. My name is Rod Carr. I've been called many things, and I've had many, many titles and many, many successes in the state of Idaho. My latest title is my best, grandfather. Fear can be a healthy motivator, and doubt is the enemy of imagination. Leaving home was very tough, but it was a decision. The fear of staying in Los Angeles at that time was greater than the fear of accepting something new and very challenging. I experienced the failures of busing, and when you're scared, you're never ever going to learn. I graduated with people that could not read or write in 12th grade. And when I went to college, I was on academic probation within 6 months. But I didn't quit. And families can be complex. That's why I have my sign, friends welcome, family by appointment only. So, the greatest title and the greatest things, we've heard many things today. But what is constant is family, hope, and faith. We live in a world where children are taught their limitations rather than their opportunities, and it's really sad to see. And my children have taught me, if your dreams don't scare you, they're not big enough. I've been blessed with 3 of the most wonderful daughters. They're doing great things, and I'm really, really proud of them. And family can be complex, and communities can be complex. And many of you have heard me say racism is not the problem in my community. The problem is lack of fathers and mentors and financial literacy. That's what's hurting us the most. And when I think about fatherhood, for me, a father is biological, a dad is responsibilities, and daddy is when they want something. And when I think of fatherhood, I found some quotes from a great source, one of our great generals, Douglas MacArthur. He says, "By profession I am a soldier, and I take pride in the fact, but I am prouder, infinitely prouder, to be a father. A soldier destroys in order to build, and the father only builds, never destroys. The one has the potential of death, the other embodies creation of life. And while the hordes of death are mighty, the battalions of life are mightier still. And it is my hope that my daughters, when I am gone, will remember me, not from the battlefield, but from the home." Coming to Idaho, I took chances and I made some poor decisions. One of the earlier risk decisions I did, I started with a very small startup company called FedEx. We were getting our freight at that time in a Cessna. When the first plane landed here in Boise, there was 11 positions on that plane. There was 11 containers. Boise could not fill one of them. And now when you're out there, you see 2 Airbuses that are sitting out there. It was great. It was a great experience to grow, to learn. They gave me one route, and I think I had 2 stops when I started, and I turned that into one of the busiest routes we ever had. In later years, I came into the financial services. I was hired by Kelly Pierce, who was head of New York Life at the time. And when I went into New York Life, I was horribly unprepared. And I came in and I failed the entrance exam. And I failed with no questions. But Kelly looked at me and he said, "There's something very special about you, and I'm going to keep you." And I was always the first there and the last to leave. I had to write I was so terrible that I had to write a letter to the company. Why should we keep you? I've been with New York Life for 28 years now, and I've accomplished some incredible things. When I got the job at in financial services. I went and I talked to my mom about it. And I said, Mom, I have this wonderful opportunity. And she looked me in the eye and said, those people will never give you money, Rod, which is a racist statement today. And I looked her in the eye and I said, Mom, they'll give me millions. In my profession, there's little room for error. The key to abundance is meeting limited circumstances with unlimited thoughts and hope. Doubt only sees obstacles. Excuses are the crutches of the uncommitted. Average is a slow asphyxiation. It's like an anesthetic, and you're going to get out of life what you accept. For those of you who have considered giving up, and I know there's people in here in this room who have considered giving up, everything you want in life is on the other side of not giving up. Easy will never get you what you want. I was in Washington, D.C. not too long ago, and one of the tours I got taken on was an African-American market, or African-American Smithsonian Museum tour. And it was a fabulous tour. And at the very beginning of the tour, they start off with the slave ships. There's pieces of the slave ships, and they have the manifest of the cargo, what was on board. And I looked at that, and I looked at those pieces, and I said, I must be better.
I am Bart Davis. I'm from Idaho Falls. I value many things, some too tender to share here. Today, however, I declare I respect and value different life experiences and opinions. For years, I've teasingly said, both my parents come from foreign countries. My mother is from Canada, and my father is from Texas. Their economic backgrounds, culture, and even climates differed. Initially, they may have diverged on some important areas, but they shared faith, duty, and community. Innately, they understood Thomas Jefferson's line, not every difference of opinion is a difference of principle. One of my dearest friends, an attorney I practiced law with for years, described our friendship at my investiture as Idaho's U.S. attorney this way. We seldom, if ever, agreed on political issues. Organized religion has always been a topic of discussion between us that has yielded few agreements. On the surface, we have very little in common. Our many differences allow us to share a love and respect for each other because we can and do set aside those differences and welcome them. On one occasion, in the throes of venting, he poignantly said something like this, Bart, do you know what your problem is? You've always been in the majority. You're white, Mormon, and a Republican. Heck, you're even the Senate Majority Leader. You've never been divorced. You have money. You don't know what it is like to struggle or be in the minority. Well, there was truth in his words, not entirely, but mostly. So do you think you have me pigeonholed? Well, consider this. I believe I am the only elected official who was twice inducted into the Idaho Republican Hall of Fame and twice subject to no confidence votes by his local political central committee. Same fellow, same politics. Or more seriously, more than 20 years ago, my 23-year-old son was shot and killed while attending this university. I know the heartache. I knew by memory my son's probation officer's phone number. There's a maturity that comes from life's trials, the type possessed by many quiet souls you associate with daily. I frequently learn by listening. There's a difference between listening to repudiate, listening to agree, and listening to understand. Listening doesn't always lead to agreement, but it often leads to understanding and frequently to respect. I acknowledge our cultural, ethnic, religious, political, and life differences as evidenced today. I am learning the value in collective wisdom, but that does not mean collective wisdom is right. But if some do not offer theirs, then we have less to consider. I often learn from others equally good or sometimes better ideas. A few years ago, my wife drove us through downtown Meridian. Approaching a complicated intersection, I warmly suggested she consider going straight. She disagreed. She was turning left. With love, I simply replied, "You're bossy." She retorted, "I'm not bossy, I'm direct." Then she added, "Bossy is when I tell you what to do. Instructive is when I teach you what you should do. And direct is when I tell you what I'm going to do." We turned left. It turned out there were different ways to get to our destination. She could have gone straight and gotten there, but she didn't. And we still got there, and on time. The person I love and trust the most in this world is my wife, and we don't always agree. Others may illustrate a previously uncontemplated direction. Even their smallest voice can bring clarity and positive change. While in the Senate, I occasionally saw well-written legislation heavily lobbied with locked-down votes. Passage seemed certain. Then a little old lady from 2nd Street stood and said, "If you pass this bill, here's how it will hurt me." I watched professional lobbyists melting in the back row as their bill went down in flames. Remember my attorney colleague? In his same talk, he added, "A man who looks at differences or disagreements as a way to understand others and determine what is the better decision is a far greater man than one who views differences and disagreements as a threat." Have you ever played Boggle? You shake 16 cubic lettered dice that settle into a 4x4 tray. Within 3 minutes, you compete to identify 3-letter or longer words. It seems after a couple of minutes, all you see are the same one. Then someone turns the tray 90 degrees. From the same dice, new words wonderfully appear. Let me share in conclusion, I've always loved a tortured soul. Not indecisive, but one who considers and reconsiders a decision not just based on their judgment, but one who sees the choice through the lens of others. As smart as you are, and you are, value with me the life, experiences, and opinions of others. Savor the maturity from life's trials, especially from the quiet souls, and don't be afraid to turn a different direction.
We know what to do now. Thank you. Thank you all for being here. Dinner will be served shortly. I'd like all the speakers to please join up here in the front because we want to capture all of you together in one moment. So please, speakers, join up here, and let's give one more round of applause to all of our speakers.